The box weighs almost nothing, which is the first thing that feels wrong. Priya sets it on the kitchen island between a stack of wedding invitations and a half-eaten bagel. And for a moment, she just looks at it. Brown cardboard, no return address. Her name written in handwriting she doesn't recognize. Careful, deliberate. Like whoever wrote it thought about each letter before committing to it. 11 days until the wedding. 11 days until she becomes Priya Callahan. And right now, the only thing standing between her and a dress fitting is this box some stranger left on her porch instead of ringing the bell. She almost doesn't open it. That's the detail she'll come back to later. How close she came to sliding it into the hall closet with the extra napkins and the unclaimed casserole dishes, dealing with it after the honeymoon. But there's a note taped to the lid, and the note is what stops her. You'll need these someday. I wish someone had given them to me sooner. No signature. Inside, photographs, printed and slightly curled at the edges, like they'd been sitting in a drawer for years, waiting for a reason to leave it. Screenshots, dozens of them, dated and organized with a precision that feels less like anger and more like evidence. The kind of documentation someone builds when they've stopped being believed and started building a case instead. Priya's stomach drops before her mind catches up to why. The screenshots are conversations. Some of them are recent, this month, this week, and they're between her fiancé, Marcus, and a woman whose name she's heard exactly twice. Once at a work function 18 months ago, introduced as an old friend, and once 3 weeks ago, when Marcus mentioned offhand that he'd run into her getting coffee. His old friend's name is Reagan. The messages start affectionate. They don't stay that way. They graduate, over the printed pages, into something that reads less like friendship and more like a second relationship running quietly underneath the first one. Inside jokes, a pet name, a photo of Marcus asleep on someone's couch, someone's cat curled on his chest, time-stamped for a weekend Priya remembers clearly because it's the weekend he told her he was at a bachelor party in Austin. She flips the photo over. On the back, in the same careful handwriting, ask him about the cat. Priya sits down on the kitchen floor, box in her lap, and does something she hasn't done in months. She starts reading everything, in order, from the beginning. 2 years ago, when Priya met Marcus, she liked that he was steady. Not exciting in the loud way, steady in the way that felt like relief after 2 relationships that had run hot and burned out. He remembered her coffee order by the 3rd date. He called when he said he'd call. Her mother, who had never approved of anyone, approved of Marcus within a month, which Priya had taken at the time as a sign from God. The engagement happened 8 months ago, at the restaurant where they'd had their first date, with a ring that had belonged to his grandmother. Priya cried. Her friends cried. Marcus's mother hugged her so hard she nearly knocked the wind out of her and said, "Finally, someone who's good for him." Nobody in that room mentioned Reagan. Priya scrolls back through her own memory now, the way you check a receipt against your bank statement, looking for a charge you don't recognize. Reagan's name had come up before. Small, forgettable mentions, the kind you don't clock as a pattern until someone hands you the pattern already assembled. Reagan says hi. "I'm meeting Reagan for lunch, work thing." You'd actually really like Reagan. She would, apparently. She'd like her enough to have spent 2 years unknowingly sharing a fiancé with her. The last item in the box is a note, longer than the first one, and this is the one that makes Priya's hands go still. "I'm not doing this to hurt you. I did the math too late. By the time I understood what I was actually part of, I'd already lost 2 years I can't get back. You still have 11 days. I know that's not nothing. I know it doesn't feel like a gift right now, but it is one. R." Reagan wrote this. Reagan sent this. Which means the woman in the affectionate messages, the woman whose cat was in the bachelor weekend photo, the woman Marcus described as an old friend, she isn't hiding anything anymore. she's the one who broke the silence. Which raises the question Priya can't put down for the rest of the night, turning it over long after she's put the box away in the closet she'd almost hidden it in without opening it all. If Reagan finally told the truth after 2 years of going along with the lie, what changed 3 weeks ago that made her stop? Marcus texts at 7:14 the next morning. Running late. Coffee run. Want anything? Priya stares at the message for a long time before typing back. No, I'm good. It's the first time in 2 years she's lied to him in a text message, and the ease of it scares her more than the box did. She hasn't slept. The photographs are spread across her desk now, instead of the kitchen floor, arranged the way she imagines a detective would arrange them. Chronological, left to right. The pet names circled in pen she doesn't remember picking up. Somewhere around 4 in the morning, she stopped feeling shocked and started feeling something colder and more useful. Methodical. Because here is what 2 years with Marcus taught her. He is a careful man. Careful men don't get caught by accident. They get caught because somewhere, someone got tired of being careful for them. Reagan got tired. She calls her sister first, because her sister has never liked Marcus in a way she never explained, and Priya had always written off as jealousy. I need you to not say I told you so, Priya says. I would never, her sister says, which is itself a kind of confession. Priya reads 2 of the messages out loud. There's a silence on the other end of the phone that goes on long enough that Priya checks to see if the call dropped. How long have you known? Priya asks. Not, did you know? How long? Her sister exhales. I didn't know anything specific. Priya, he's never once left his phone face up on a table. Not once, in 2 years. I noticed it at Thanksgiving and I told myself I was being paranoid. Paranoid. The word Marcus used, too, back in the spring. The one time Priya had asked, lightly, almost joking, why he seemed to text a certain someone so much. You're being paranoid, he'd said, and kissed her forehead like the conversation was already over. She believed him. That's the part that sits heaviest right now, heavier than the betrayal itself. Not that he lied, but that she'd handed him the benefit of the doubt so easily, so completely, that he never even had to work for it. If you've ever had a gut feeling you talked yourself out of, you already know exactly where this is going. And I'd love to hear how you talked yourself back into trusting your own read on people. Drop it below. Now, back to Priya. By noon, she has a plan, and the plan surprises her with how calm it feels to build. She is not going to confront Marcus with the box tonight, screaming, throwing photographs at his chest the way she pictured at 4 a.m. She's going to do something closer to what Reagan did to her. Quiet, documented, patient. She photographs every item in the box, backs it up in 3 places, and puts the originals in a safety deposit box her sister helps her open that afternoon. Then she does the thing that actually costs her something. She writes to Reagan. Just 4 words. Why now, not before? The reply comes within the hour. Because 3 weeks ago I found out I'm not the only one either. There's a 3rd box. It's not with me. Priya reads the sentence 4 times before it fully lands. A 3rd box. Which means a 3rd person. Which means Marcus didn't lose control of one secret. He's been running 2. A 3rd box. Priya sits with that sentence longer than she sat with any of the photographs. Because photographs are proof of one thing that already happened. And a 3rd box is proof that whatever this is, it's still moving, still growing arms. She writes back to Reagan immediately. Who is she? Do you have a name? The reply takes 3 hours this time, long enough that Priya paces her apartment, refreshing her phone, like it might change the answer by waiting. I don't have a name. I have a hotel receipt with someone else's rewards number on it, that Marcus forgot to log out of on the shared account. Whoever she is, this has been going on since before you were even engaged. Since before the engagement. Priya does the math the way you check a wound to see how deep it actually goes. 8 months since the proposal. 2 years since they met. Which means somewhere in there, likely well before he got down on one knee in the restaurant where they'd had their first date, Marcus was already someone who kept more than one door open at a time. She thinks about his grandmother's ring, about the story he told, how his grandmother had made him promise, before she died, that he'd give it to someone who actually saw him. Priya had cried when he told her that story. She'd felt chosen. Now she wonders how many other people have heard that exact same story, with that exact same ring, in that exact same restaurant. She doesn't confront him that night either. Instead, she does something colder and smarter. She asks him, over dinner, completely normal, to tell her again how he and Reagan met. Marcus doesn't hesitate. That's the detail that guts her. He doesn't even flinch. "College," he says. "Mutual friend group. Why?" "Just curious. I realized I never really got the full story." He tells it well. Too well. It has the shape of a story that's been told before, polished at the edges, and Priya realizes, watching him butter a piece of bread like nothing in the world is wrong, that she is looking at a man who has never once been caught. Not really. Not until 3 weeks ago, when a woman he'd been quietly, carefully juggling finally found something that made her stop protecting him. She smiles at him across the table. She asks about his day. She lets him believe, for one more night, that the box never arrived. That's the moment worth sitting with. The night you already know, but you let them keep talking anyway, just to see how far the story goes. If you've ever done that, tell me how long you let it run before you said something. The third box arrives 4 days later. Not from Reagan. From someone new. Someone who signs the note with an initial Priya doesn't recognize, in handwriting that looks almost apologetic, like she knows exactly what she's contributing to and has made peace with it anyway. There's a photo inside, dated 6 weeks ago. Marcus, at a restaurant Priya has never been to, wearing a shirt she bought him for his birthday. Across from a woman who is not Reagan and is not Priya. Smiling like it's someone's anniversary. The woman in the shirt photo has a name within 2 days, because it turns out 3 women quietly comparing notes move faster than one man juggling 3 separate lies. Her name is Odette. She works at the marketing firm 2 floors below Marcus's office. The team lunch excuse, Priya realizes now, wasn't even original. It's the same cover story he used for Reagan 18 months ago, just recycled with a new floor number. This is the part where the story stops being about heartbreak and starts being about architecture. Because a man doesn't accidentally end up with 3 separate women on 3 separate timelines. He builds that, compartment by compartment, alibi by alibi. Priya, Reagan, and Odette end up on a call together on a Tuesday night. 3 women who have never met, comparing dates on a shared spreadsheet Reagan started the week she sent the first box. It should feel humiliating. It doesn't. It feels like finally being handed the missing pages of a book you'd been reading with half the chapters torn out. "He told me his ring story too," Odette says, quiet. Word for word. The grandmother, the promise. "He tell you the same anniversary date?" Reagan asks. Silence. Then Odette, flatly, "He proposed to me too, 11 months ago." I said not yet. Priya sits very still, phone against her ear, and understands with total clarity that she is not the exception. She was never the exception. She was simply the one who said yes fastest. This is where I need you in the comments, because I want to know, if you found out the person you loved had run this exact playbook on someone else, word for word, would you want to see the evidence? Or would some part of you rather not know how replaceable the story actually was? The plan changes shape after that call. It stops being about proof and starts being about timing. The wedding is in 6 days. The caterer has already been paid in full. Marcus's mother has already had the dress altered for the rehearsal dinner. Everyone Priya loves has already cleared their calendar, bought a gift, booked a hotel room. And Marcus, for his part, has no idea that 3 women now know exactly who he is. Priya makes a decision that surprises even her. She is going to let the wedding stay on the calendar. Not because she's still marrying him, because for the first time in this entire story, she is the one deciding how it ends. And she wants him standing at that altar, in front of everyone who believed his careful story when it happens. She texts Reagan and Odette one line. "I have an idea. It requires all 3 of us in the same room as him, at the same time." Reagan replies first. "Tell us where and when." 6 days becomes the rehearsal dinner, and the rehearsal dinner becomes the room where it happens. Marcus doesn't suspect a thing. That's not an accident. Priya has spent 6 days being warmer than usual, more affectionate, laughing a beat too long at his jokes. Because a careful man only gets nervous when the temperature changes, and she needs the temperature to stay exactly where he expects it until the moment she decides otherwise. Reagan comes as a friend from Priya's old job. Odette comes as someone from the caterer's team, here to check the floor plan. Marcus's mother hugs them both without a flicker of recognition, because of course she doesn't recognize them. She's never been allowed to. Priya waits until the toasts. She stands, glass in hand, and thanks everyone for coming, for loving them, for showing up 11 days before the wedding, and she pauses just long enough for the room to lean in, for showing up years before that, too, in ways some of them don't even know about yet. Marcus's smile doesn't move. Not yet. He thinks it's a joke he hasn't caught up to. "I want to introduce 2 people," Priya says. "Reagan and Odette." The room doesn't understand at first. 2 names mean nothing to people who've never heard them. It's Marcus's face that gives it away. All the color leaves it at once, like a switch someone flipped from the back of the room. "Reagan, would you like to say how you and Marcus met?" Reagan doesn't perform it. She says it plainly, the way you'd read a weather report. "College. Then again 18 months ago, and continuously since. He proposed to me too, actually, a year before he proposed to you. I said no. I wish I'd said something else instead." Odette goes next, just as flat. 11 months ago. I said not yet. I didn't know there was a yes already sitting somewhere else." Marcus stands up so fast his chair scrapes against the floor, loud enough that the band stops playing. This isn't... Priya, can we talk outside?" "We already did," Priya says. "You just weren't in the room for it." His mother is the one who breaks first, hand pressed to her mouth, looking at her son like she's seeing a stranger wearing his face. That's the moment that will end up in every retelling of this night. Not Marcus's collapse, but his mother's. The exact second 30 years of assumptions fell out from under her at once. "How many?" she asks him. Not, "Are these women lying?" How many? Marcus doesn't answer. He doesn't have an answer that isn't also a confession. If you've ever watched someone's whole family understand the truth in real time, you know that silence has a sound. Tell me in the comments, who was the one person in your story who finally said the thing everyone else was too polite to ask? Priya sets her glass down, still full, and looks at the 2 women who gave her the 6 days she needed to build this exact room. "The wedding's off," she says, to the room, to him, to no one in particular. "But I'm glad you all came. Please, eat. The caterer's already paid." She walks out first. Reagan and Odette follow. Nobody follows Marcus. The morning after, Priya's phone doesn't stop. Not calls from Marcus. He stopped trying by the third unanswered one. It's everyone else. His mother, who leaves a voicemail that's mostly crying and one clear sentence at the end. You did the right thing. I should have asked more questions years ago. Cousins she's only met twice. A guest from the rehearsal dinner she doesn't even remember inviting, saying he'd never seen a room go that silent in his life. Priya doesn't answer most of them. Not out of anger, out of something quieter. The particular exhaustion of being right about something you spent 2 years hoping you were wrong about. She calls Reagan first, once the noise dies down enough to hear her own thoughts. Thank you, Priya says. For the box. For all of it. I almost didn't send it, Reagan admits. I told myself for 2 years it wasn't my business to unravel someone else's engagement. Then I found out about Odette and I realized it stopped being about protecting myself the moment I knew there were more of us. Staying quiet wasn't neutral anymore. It was just convenient. That's the sentence Priya keeps coming back to in the weeks after. Staying quiet wasn't neutral. It was just convenient. She thinks about how many small, easy silences she'd swallowed over 2 years. The phone that never sat face up. The mentions that didn't add up. The story about the ring that fit a little too well for a man supposedly telling it for the first time. Convenient silences. All of them. Hers included. Odette reaches out one more time, a month later, not about Marcus at all. She started her own version of the spreadsheet, a running list she jokingly calls receipts for the next time her gut tells her something and she's tempted to talk herself out of it. I used to think trusting my gut made me paranoid, she tells Priya. Turns out, it just made me early. Priya writes that one down too. The dress goes back. The deposit on the caterer, oddly, becomes a donation. The venue, moved by the whole story somehow reaching them before Priya even called to cancel, quietly redirects it to a women's shelter 2 towns over. Priya finds out about it from a thank you card, not a receipt, and cries harder over that card than she did over any of the photographs in the box. 6 months later, she's the one who sends a box. Not evidence, nothing dramatic, just a note, mailed to a woman she's never met. Someone a mutual friend mentioned was having a weird feeling about her boyfriend that she can't explain. The note says 3 sentences. You're not paranoid. Trust the feeling before you have proof. And if you ever need someone who already did the math, I'm here. That's the actual ending of this one. Not the rehearsal dinner, not the confrontation, but the box going the other direction. If tonight's story stirred something up for you, that's the whole point. Sit with it. Don't rush past the feeling just because it's uncomfortable. Next time, we're staying in this same emotional territory but flipping the angle completely. Someone who found out they weren't the one who got betrayed. They were the one everyone else had been quietly warned about. That one's going to sting in a different direction, and I think you're going to want to see it. I'm Hani. People always show you who they are. Wettedy just slows it down. I'll see you in the next one.